Good afternoon and welcome to day 3 of our Teagasc Virtual Pig Week. My name is Louise Clarke, Specialist Pig Advisor based in Ballyhaise, County Cavan, and I will be your host for today. So as outlined earlier in the week, the focus on today's session will be on milk supplementation in the farrowing house. So since last year's Let's Talk Pig webinar with Charlotte Lordson, there's been a lot of interest in this area. And a number of farmers have installed a milk supplementation system, or there's a number of farmers considering installing one. So therefore, the aim of today's session is to provide information about the science and practicality of milk supplementation in the farrowing house. So the outline of today will be as follows. Firstly, you will hear from Dr. Peadar Lawler, who will share some of the knowledge around the evolution and science of milk supplementation systems. Secondly, research technician Kieran Kane will discuss some of the technical components around its use and discuss some of the research work that's currently going on in Moorpark since we got a milk system installed earlier in the year. Following this, you will hear from 2 pig producers who will share their experience using milk supplementation systems. And then finally, we will have a chance to ask your questions to the audience, or to the panel, who will consist of Peadar, Kieran, and Specialist Pig Advisor Michael McKeown. So just a reminder, if you do have any questions, please type them into the question box at the bottom of your screen, and I will be able to ask these to the panel at the end of our talks. So to start today's proceedings, I'm now going to hand over to Peadar and Kieran to make their presentations.
Thanks, Louise. What I wanted to discuss with you is milk and liquid feeding for suckling and newly weaned pigs. And I suppose we're all very much aware that litter size has greatly increased in recent years. In fact, over the last 20 years, the number of pigs weaned per litter has increased by about 2.81 pigs per litter, and mortality has increased per litter by 0.6 of a pig. I suppose the issue really is that milk production for the number of pigs that are produced is down, and I suppose there's increased competition for functional teats in these large litters. So we have challenges with regard to keeping respectable mortality levels pre-weaning currently. And also we have challenges in growth up to weaning because of the large litter and a fixed level of milk produced by the sow. And because maybe we have lighter pigs being produced at weaning, we have issues with regard to maintaining growth performance post-weaning. So I suppose we have all been grappling at solutions to this increased litter size over the last number of years. And maybe just to go down through some of the solutions that would have been tested and looked at, energy supplementation, and by this I mean just a dose of an energy supplement in the hours maybe after birth or maybe in the first few days of life. This is sort of a temporary benefit at best, and it only just gets the piglet up and maybe suckling the sow. But in terms of reducing mortality long term, it has sort of limited benefits. Dry creep feeding, we've been doing this for years, but I suppose it can still be quite effective. I suppose the issue with dry creep feed is that there's huge variation in intakes on a litter basis. And I suppose also, even if you're getting high litter intake of creep, you need to be looking at the proportion of eaters, because if a lot of those piglets aren't eating the creep, they're not going to have a benefit from the creep in terms of weaning weight and post-weaning, improved post-weaning performance. The other issue with dry creep feeding is that if you look at intakes of dry creep, it's only after about 10 to 14 days that significant levels of dry creep are taken in by the pigs. So the benefit is likely to be only in late lactation for your piglets. And it's unlikely to benefit mortality early on in the pig's life. Nurse sows, this is a very effective strategy. The Danish system relies entirely on this system. It wouldn't work otherwise. I suppose it's very effective in terms of keeping pigs alive and in ensuring growth rate of the pigs up to weaning. However, it's very, very complicated. You have to retain quite a large number of foster sows or nurse sows within the farrowing rooms. So the system itself is quite costly. The system I would prefer, or that we would prefer, would be more the provision of milk replacer to these piglets. And this is a system, I suppose I would call it the Dutch system. I suppose initially it came about with the introduction of rescue decks in recent years. And rescue decks are simply boxes with a milk cup, and the milk is delivered through a nipple. And the pigs are removed from the sow and put into that container and sort of artificially reared up to weaning age. Now, I think a preferable option to this is actually providing supplementary milk to suckling pigs while they're still on suckling their sows. And there's two ways of doing this. I suppose initially we would have also used milk cups similar to those used in the rescue decks. But I suppose the preferred system, as far as I'm concerned, would be a system that allows both milk replacer to be fed, but as the pigs get older, coming closer to weaning, that you can introduce a liquid feed. So a creep diet in liquid form or in gruel form to the pigs, or mixtures of milk replacer and that creep. I suppose the beauty of that is that if you're getting significant quantities of that feed into the pigs prior to weaning, you should have a pig with an improved gut structure and function at weaning. And certainly, I suppose, and most importantly, that they should have increased enzyme secretory capacity. In other words, they have now the enzymes that can digest a solid food or a vegetable-based diet post-weaning. Let's just step back a little bit and look at how fast piglets can actually grow prior to weaning. And I suppose artificially reared pigs can grow at somewhere in the region of 400 to 500 grams per day. That's a huge growth rate. But in practice, if you look at data from commercial units, if you get half of that, somewhere in the order of 240 to 270 grams per day, you'd think you're doing fairly well. So there is a huge opportunity for us currently to increase growth rate prior to weaning by providing supplementary feed. And that can be either creep feed in dry or liquid form. I suppose with our weaning ages, 26, 28 days, we should expect by creep feeding, liquid or dry, to increase weaning weight and to have a benefit in terms of increasing intake and growth rate post-weaning. However, I suppose we need to be cognizant of the fact that we need to have a high proportion of the litter actually taking in the creep feed prior to weaning. Liquid feeding then comes into its own because this provides the greatest potential for increasing dry matter intake and growth prior to weaning. There's also some evidence that would suggest that mortality can be reduced in large litters when milk replacer is fed prior to weaning. However, I suppose we should always be cognizant of the fact that milk replacer in particular is very expensive. And I suppose we also need to recognize the fact that the delivery of that milk to the pigs, it needs to be fresh and kept fresh. So hygiene and sanitation of the systems are critical to ensure their success. This is just maybe a novelty slide to show you how in research we would identify eaters of creep feed or non-eaters of creep feed. We simply put a dye into the feed of the creep feed or the milk or the liquid feed, and we would look to see does that dye appear in the dung of the pigs. So let's go and look at the objective of creep feeding, either solid or liquid. Well, if we look at what is the major factor limiting growth in pigs prior to weaning, it's nutrient availability, it's intake, physical intake of food. So the objective of creep feeding is to supplement sow's milk yield. And that milk yield becomes very limiting for the pigs from early to mid lactation. So very early on, actually, during lactation. And I suppose the other thing is that the energy requirements of the pig to meet its potential for growth are not being met by the sow's milk alone. In fact, you're only meeting probably 55 to 65% of their requirements. And the other thing would be that protein in milk, in sow's milk, and the protein to energy ratio in sow's milk is insufficient to maximize pre-weaning piglet growth. And therefore, you would expect that if you feed a creep diet or a liquid diet or a milk replacer with a high amino acid content, you should be able to increase litter weight gain. We talked about enzyme activity or enzyme development in the pig. And I just want to maybe look at two particular graphs here. The first one would be lactase. Lactase is the enzyme that digests lactose, which is the carbohydrate in milk. So you can see that lactase is very high in the diet prior to weaning. And after weaning, that disappears or reduces significantly in terms of activity. And that's normal because you're after weaning, which is indicated by the blue line here. After weaning, the pig goes on to either a solid diet, but it's generally vegetable-based, starch-based diet. Okay, so to digest that type of diet, in particular the starch component, you need the enzyme amylase. And you can see that amylase is normally very, very low right up to weaning. And it's only a number of days after weaning that starts to take off in terms of activity. And I suppose the idea is that with increasing intake prior to weaning, particularly maybe of creep type diets or liquid type diets, you should be able to push up that activity earlier prior to weaning, so that at weaning, the piglet is well equipped to digest starch. The same goes for other enzymes like pepsin and trypsin, which digest protein, and maltase that digests sugar. So in terms of promoting increased feed intake, this is critical because in lots of cases, the intake of pigs in the first few days after weaning don't even cover the maintenance requirement of the pig, much less support the pre-weaning growth rates, right? Pigs might be taking in 150 grams a day or something like that. And in that instance, you get fat catabolism. In other words, the pig breaks down its own fat reserves because they're using those for maintenance purposes, energy for maintenance. Because you have reduced intakes post-weaning, you also get reductions in villus height, and that's going to affect digestion and absorption of nutrients. But I suppose the message here is that we need to be doing everything to increase intake early post-weaning, and that is going to have an effect in terms of improving lifetime growth in your pigs. Dry creep feed consumption is frequently low, I suppose we would have said in the past. But I suppose if you look at those that actually eat the creep, they have increased post-weaning daily feed intake, and they have increased post-weaning growths. Okay, and they have improved gut structure and function, and they have improved enzyme secretory capacity. So they're more equipped at weaning than if you didn't provide a dry creep. Milk replacer, then, I suppose where that again comes into its own is that it's consumed more readily than dry meal or pellets. The intake should be a lot higher. We're currently looking at both milk replacer and liquid feeding in Moore Park in the pig NutriStrat and the Monogut Health project. So we should have a lot of data on that in the coming years. I just want to show you a few pictures here. We talked about rescue decks. Rescue decks are simply compartments and where the pigs are removed entirely from the sow. They're fed using these milk cups, and they may also be provided with creep feed. So they're artificially reared. So on the left, this picture here will show you piglets, a compartment that is removed from the farrowing house entirely. In this picture here, we're looking at a rescue deck that is mounted upon the crate of the farrowing sows. Now, this is a more preferred option, as far as I would be concerned. And in this instance, we're providing supplementary milk to suckling piglets. This is where a milk cup is provided. I suppose the issue with this, providing a milk cup like this is that you cannot feed a gruel or a liquid feed to your pigs prior to weaning. And I think in the last maybe 10 days at least, you should be onto a liquid diet rather than a milk replacer. This is another system here where you have a bowl with a sensor, and that allows you to feed both milk replacer and liquid feed. Again, you can manually feed or you can have it sensor controlled. And this is probably the optimum, and you can set the number of feeds or checks on that sensor per day. In Moorpark, we installed a system early this year. This is much more complex than you would have on a commercial unit. We have 4 bins here and 3 mixing tanks. You wouldn't need all of that on a commercial unit, but we need this for trial purposes. Another important thing would be with regard to where you set the bowl or decide on positioning of the bowl. We would advise that you set it or position it alongside the head or up near the head of the sow, and that will promote intake. Even with dry creep, if you position a bowl up here, you will get a higher intake than if you position the bowl in any other part of the pen. Post-weaning, we have installed this system also post-weaning in Moorpark. I suppose we would only be inclined to use this system maybe for a number of days post-weaning. So it won't be for the entire post-weaning period, but maybe only 4 or 5 days. I suppose we're on to the post-weaning section now and the provision of milk replacer and liquid feed. Feeding of I suppose liquid milk was uncommon in the past post-weaning because of the high cost of milk replacer. And milk replacer can vary anywhere from, probably 1,900 up to almost 3,000 euro a ton. But I suppose the thing about feeding milk replacer or liquid feed post-weaning is that it can increase intake in this critical period and thereby increase the growth rate of the pigs. In fact, a study in Canada would show that where milk replacer was fed, in addition to a dry creep feed, for only 4 days after weaning, they got an increase in average daily gain of about 20 to 30%. They did a number of trials on this. When they killed the pigs then and looked at the guts or the intestines, they found that because they had this increased feed intake, villus height in these pigs were higher than those weaned onto a dry starter diet alone. We're working on this also currently in the Pig NutriStrat and the Monogut Health project. I suppose what I would say to you is watch this space, because liquid feeding both pre and post weaning can get you huge intakes. And because of this may be a very useful vector in the future to get some bioactives, nutrients or amino acids into the pigs early in their life at the critical periods that will promote improved gut health. Just to summarize what we've talked about up to now, feeding milk replacer or liquid feeding prior to weaning can reduce mortality in some instances. I know some farmers will say otherwise. It certainly will increase intake and weaning weight in your pigs, and it should improve earlier enzyme activity so that those amylase, that amylase enzyme that I talked about to digest starch, and it should increase post-weaning intake and growth. If you're feeding milk replacer or liquid feed post-weaning, you should expect increased intake and daily gain in your pigs. And you certainly should have improved gut structure and function because you have that increased intake earlier post-weaning. And all of this should serve to increase lifetime growth in your pigs. So with that, thanks for your attention, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions when the occasion arises.
Hi, I'm Kieran Keane. I'm a research technician here in Teagasc Moorpark, and this is our baby feed system. The system is installed in the farrowing and weaner rooms here in Moorpark, and we're using for trial work. Mainly in the farrowing room so far, we've just completed our first rep of a trial in which we're using 4 different treatments for the piglets. So the first treatment is no supplementary feed whatsoever. The second one is dry creep, as we used to give a standard. The third one is milk through the system here. And the fourth one is milk graduating onto creep through the system here as well. And that's done starting with milk, and every few days it moves through graduated blending between milk and creep from 80-20, 40-60, 60-40, 20-80, and then finally onto creep. So early indications are that our weaning weights will probably go up, but we've no solid data on that. As I say, it's only one rep. We've no data yet on mortality or how the pigs follow on, as I said, because we just finished the first batch. So we start the treatments 3 days after farrowing, and it carries right through to weaning. And the fact that we have the system as well in the weaner house, we have the capability to feed ongoing diets in there and follow the pigs through. The system itself, it's basically a liquid feed system in miniature. The tanks, as you can see here, they're 180 litre tanks. The pipe work in the rooms and the valves, they're all 20 mil PVC. So everything being a lot smaller, it means the one thing is our mix ratio has to be 5-to-1 or greater. The system we have here, there's 3 of these tanks, so we can feed 3 diets at any one time. They're fed from hot and cold water, and there's 4 hoppers which feed in the creep and milk. There's 2 specifically designed to handle milk powders, and there's 2 designed for creep. The 2 with the milk powders have a little agitator blade in the bottom, and that spins and cleans the bottom of the vat and stops the milk from clumping inside in it. Each pen is put on the system with a number of pigs, and they're assigned to a curve and assigned to a diet, and that then decides what feed you're going to get from which tank here. When it starts preparing in the tank, first it'll give in 80% of the water. This will be a mixture of hot and cold depending on the desired temperature, which is set in the computer. So the water comes in, then this flap here will open to let in feed through the auger from the hopper, and that'll mix with the water, and then the final 20% of water will come in after that. The reason for splitting the water in 80-20 is to get the desired temperature, as I say, and the reason for the component flap under the auger pipe is to stop water going back up through the pipe and blocking it. The water is fed in here through a wash ball, which keeps the tank relatively clean, and that's used for cleaning as well of the tank, and that's done twice a day. So when the tank goes to dispense the feed, it sensor tests all the troughs that are on the treatment. This here happens for our trial 20 to 30 times a day. If a trough needs feed, the 3 tanks are connected to the one pump, so there's only one diet being fed at the time. The pump will fill the line and close the end valve, which is after the last valve in the room. Then once that line is full of the required diet, it'll then pump feed to the valve on that circuit. Then once all valves are fed in the circuit, the end valve opens and compressed air will blow the line clean again so that you can use it for a different diet in the same ring. There's a warming feature as well on the system. Obviously, if the milk or creep is left here in the tanks for too long, it'll settle back to ambient room temperature. So to prevent that, we have a heat exchanger. So the milk is pumped through that every few hours and reheated back to our desired temperature, and then that line is blown clean again with compressed air to make it ready for the next diet. So that stops it from going back to 20 degrees and then milk settling in the tank. So the cleaning of the system here is all fully automated. It cleans the tanks twice a day with just water through the wash ball, as I mentioned earlier. The pipelines are cleaned once a day. That's the circuit. That's cleaned with compressed air after every feed, and then it's cleaned out once a day with a mixture of water and acid. That's 6 days a week that happens, and the 7th day in the week it's cleaned with water and alkali cleaner. So like you'd have in a normal dairy kind of setup. So they're flushed through the lines once a day. That cleans them, and that then is flushed to the slurry. Then the valves themselves are blown clean with a residue of that liquid as well, with the acid and water, and that's done with compressed air. That's done once a day. And then the troughs themselves are blown clean and before the first feed in the morning. So their last feed would have been a few hours before that, so it gives the pigs time to eat it, and then that can be blown out. So it's a relatively clean system. It's fully automated, and we don't have to do much manually for it. So that's very important when you're dealing with milk products, especially, because you will get build up in lines if you're not cleaning them properly. If you have a system like this feeding milk, you definitely have to make sure that it is cleaning it, whether that's automated or manual. Hot water is vital as well for the milk to flow, because milk is a product that will just get in places and stick there and build up scums. So it's very important, even though this is automated, to check that it is actually doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it's using the acids and using the alkalis through the dosatrons, because it's going to cause you problems if it's not. So I would say that's one of the most important things with any milk system, is the cleaning of it. From a research point of view, the system gives us great flexibility with the 3 tanks, the 3 different diets, the fact that we can feed it in the weaner house as well. Also the recording of the feeds on the computer. It tells you exactly what each pen got, when they got it. So we can collect a lot of data from the computer. The benefits of it being fully automated, especially the cleaning of it, means we can trust that it's doing the same thing at the same time every day, and that's very important in research. We had a few teething problems setting it up, mainly because we're trying to do research here, so we're trying to do different things and push the boundaries. One of the problems we had was with the mix ratio. I discussed earlier that we bring in 80% water and then 20% after the dry has come in. We had that at 60-40, and it was making a lumpy kind of a mix with the 60% water and the creep before the additional water came in, so that blocked lines and different things. So you just kind of have to watch your mix ratio. As I said as well, it's a 5-to-1 is the limit of this system. It's probably different on different systems, but just be sure it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, and your mixes are consistent, and it's getting enough time to mix as well. Because as I said, they're very small lines, just susceptible to block if something isn't right.
Okay, that was brilliant. Thank you very much to Peadar and Kieran for that information. There was some really good points highlighted there. So if you have any questions that you'd like to direct at Peadar or Kieran, please put them into the question box and we can ask them questions at the end of today's session. However, in the interest of time, we're going to move on to our next clip for today. So here you will hear from Colm Ryan and Leanne Lynch on their experiences of having a milk supplementation system on their units.
I am Colm Ryan of Kilfoylem Limited in Innis, County Clare, and I have a breeding site here in Innis with 20 years, and the finishing is below in Kerry. So I produce pigs up to 40 kilos in this site and move them down to Kerry and produce them from 40 to 120 in Kerry.
Hello, my name is Leanne and I work in a pig unit owned by Jimmy Minnie in Mallinhead, County Donegal. The piggery is a 600 sow unit with some additional weaner and finisher accommodation in 2 different sites of the farm. The unit roughly produces roughly 30 pigs sows per year and about 118 kgs live weight for sale. The unit also produces its own feed and has been doing for a number of years. I joined the team in 2019 and I am responsible for the farm and house management.
I have the milk system in with 1 year and I have it going right with about maybe 10 months. For the first 2 months it wasn't going properly because the milk to water ratio wasn't properly adjusted.
We installed the system in December 2020 and just the week of Christmas. Before we installed the system, we were doing the milk by hand, you know what I mean, adding the cups and the bowls and doing the milk in the morning and the evening, and the labour was intense. Therefore, we seen on our weight, on our weaning and stuff, that the numbers had gone on with adding the milk supplement to the pigs, and we Jimmy had decided then to install the milk system, which was a good investment for the piggery.
It's a pump and grow system. It does a little bowl in each farrowing crate. I turns it on at day 3, approximately day 3, and it goes till day maybe 21 or 2, and I turns it off maybe 7 days before they're weaned out. And I give the piglets a gruel in a red trough to supplement the milk till the day they're weaned out on a Monday morning.
The system that we have in place is there's bowls in each crate, and milk is supplied to each crate when the milk is turned on in that room. There's a dry hopper where the dry bags go, and dry bags of milk goes, and there's the tank then that fills with the level of water, and the milk powder is augured across and mixed, and therefore it is pumped through to the farrowing crates, to the piglets as they demand it.
I invested in the milk system because my weaning weights were going down to under 6.5 kilos with the numbers that I was producing here, because my barn live were well in the high 16s, and I needed something because I was weaning 14 pigs, so I needed something to supplement the sow for the milk that I was using, because my weaning weights were going so low, and the amount of pigs I had on the sow, the sows were coming out very thin out of the farmhouse. So I had to put something in because I had to get something for the weaning weights I had.
We decided to go with the system because of the high-born alive. We were fostering 6 to 7, maybe more sows a week to cope with the number of live-born, and the crates was like taking up so much crates. So therefore we decided that the milk, that to get each crate and sow to work, that each crate was working efficiently, and therefore by adding the milk supplement to the sows, it was to the piglets for the sows. We only foster now about 1 sow a week. Do you know what I mean? And it really helps with labour, because that all takes time.
I turn on the system at day 3, when the last sow was probably farrowed in each room, and the pigs drinking away. They normally don't take to till day 5 or 6. When they do get a sup of it, then they start working with it. It's normally when they're about a week old they start really digging into it. And I turn it off at day 21 or 2. And the last week then I supplement, because before that I was using way too much milk, and it wasn't paying me to do that for the last week, and I wasn't getting much gain. I didn't see there was much gain for the last week because of the gruel I'm mixing, so it supplements the milk, and it saves me money long run.
We start the piglets on the supplementary milk on day 3. For the simple reason is the bee stains to the piglets is a major, they have to get that, or the milk is only a top up. By day 3, we judge the sow and what she is capable of rearing naturally herself. If you have an older sow that is naturally only fit to feed 10, therefore slapping 16 pigs onto her and expecting the milk to do a miracle doesn't work. By day 3, you'll notice that sow that has not fit to feed the 15 or 16, that's the time to lift the pigs and turn on the milk then, or lift the bowl. We cover the bowls. We wait till 20% of the room is farrowed, and then we lift the bowls. Then we cover the bowl, all the bowls, and then whatever ones that it's on day 3 and the pigs are established on the sow, we lift the bowl, the covers, and give them the milk, and add 2 extra pigs to what she can feed naturally herself, and therefore we have more problems with the sow and the litter then till the end. We feed from day 3 to day 20, then we cut off the milk at day 20, which is normally about a week or so before weaning. When we cut off the milk, the one top thing that we have to watch for then is the sow's teats being chewed, because once the milk is turned off, they result back to the sow then, and they can start. So the eye needs to be watched on the sow and the teat, and make sure that that's okay. And if they start to go, we pull them out, because the pigs are fit to be weaned. They're on creep from day 7, 8, but from day 20, when we turn off the milk, the they consume a massive amount of creep then from day 20 to they're weaned and taken out, which is before we installed the milk system. The pigs were leaving me and they wouldn't be on the creep much, like as much as they should have been, and therefore there was trouble then in the weaner house or thing, which we're finding now that like the pigs are eating far more before they leave me, so therefore the work in the weaner house is less.
Yeah, the benefits have, the mortality will be the very same. You won't have any difference in mortality going forward. It's the weaning weights will be the big thing, and the sow condition coming out is the other thing. So my weaning weights went up a kilo, and on the space of that, so they went from say 6.3, 6.4 up to 7 point, just over 7, nearly 7.5 kilos for the piglets going out, being weaned out. Mortality won't change one bit. It's not going to supplement a sow's milk. That's the big benefit I see in the milk system. I'm not weaning pigs under 6 kilos, guaranteed, because I weigh the lightest of them. So I've no pig going under 6 kilos and being weaned out at the moment. I haven't seen any fallback in in the weaners going to the first stage, because I introduced the gruel that I was giving them in the farm for 3 to 4 days just to supplement, and then I put them on the creeps as well, because I'm dry feeding in this unit. But I hope to going forward there in the next month or 6 weeks that I will be gone in weight in this first stage just to supplement from the gruel that I'm feeding in the first stage, the way there wouldn't be a fallback from dry feed. So no, I don't see any fallback at all, and especially because of my weaning weights, I gone up to over 7.5 kilos for the amount of pigs I'm weaning. It's very easy for them to adapt onto the feed.
The benefit is the labour. Doing the milk by hand and going around with milk into bowls, you'll never do it clean enough. And it was taking me about 2 hours in the morning by the time I'd come in, clean bowls and give in milk, and then top them up in the evening before I went home. Like that was what, 2.5 hours of my day that that the labour, and then the labour of fostering, do you know what I mean, of having to do all the fostering was definitely it cut. That was one of the biggest benefits now, like, I don't have to move sows as much, do you know what I mean, only one foster a week or whatever, compared to loads, like, do you know what I mean. Since the milk system has gone in, we have noticed that the mortality, we have the balance and floors crates, and with the milk and the mortality is definitely a big help with it. Before the milk system would have went in, like, you only have a day to notice a pig hungry of itself and that needs lifted from the sow, that it's not being fed. And therefore, if you don't lift it within that day, the piglet hasn't got a chance to survive. It's dead the next day. Which is, with the milk, you have a couple of days, 2 to 3 days, to get your eye on that pig before lifting it.
My weaners, I have seen a big difference from maybe going from 17.5 kilos coming out of the first stage before it, up to about 19 kilos now, and coming out of my second stage going from 34 or 5 kilos up to just under 40 kilos. So I'm gone maybe 5 or 6 kilos of a difference in the second stage in my weights, which makes an awful difference. And the mortality probably in my weaners from the quality of pigs I have been weaned out is at the drop in a percentage point.
We have no milk cups set up in the weaner pens. But on a Monday when we wean, if we have about 5 or 6, normally maybe not even that, if we had piglets that were not thriving, not on the meal as well as they should have been for going up to leaving us or whatever, they're the right age, it's just they're not on the meal right and they're not eating right or whatever, we would give them milk in a bowl from the milk machine. There's a separate pipe from the milk machine that we can take a bucket and take milk up to them and put them in a tray and give them milk for a week to get them eating, give them that wee bit boost after they're weaned, just the weak ones. The milk and the keep weaning a wee bit later is definitely, the pigs are really flourishing once they leave me and they go to, the boys have said that the pigs they're eating far better. There's no question with that. They're moving through the different stages of meal that they do get. They're moving through it a lot faster than they would have been, because they're not, when they leave me and go to the weaner house, they're not learning to eat. They have already been eaten, so therefore it's just it's just getting them through the stage then.
Yeah, my sale weights, I haven't done it so far because of the way the factories are going at the moment.
Well, we only have installed the system since December 2020, so really we're only starting to see now the benefits of the system, and we haven't really, like looked into it or think, we haven't really looked into how they've done or whatever, but they going by the boys that's out in the weaner and the finisher and fattening units are out in them houses that they are they're flying.
I clean the system every Monday, Wednesday and Friday and put a detergent in. I use hot water because the lines are fairly small and milk can actually build up in the line. So I do use hot water and a good detergent, because before that I actually used to have wicked problems in the lines blocking out and I had to blow them out of the air. So make sure you put the right detergent into it, which the hot water makes a big difference. It takes about 2 hours to wash out each system, but you just put in the detergent, you put in the hot water and the system works away itself. There's no bother whether you come back in 2 hours time, it'll be finished. Just drain out the system, wash out the tank with a brush. Very simple. It only takes me about 10 minutes every day to look at the system, fill up the hopper with the milk powder and put in every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, wash it out. And that's as much as it takes me every week.
The cleaning procedure is she cleans 5 Monday to Friday, Monday and a Wednesday and Friday. She does a hard clean, and on a Tuesday and a Thursday she does a manual clean. On those days they get different. There's 2 different cleaning detergents that's used for cleaning out the milk system. We arrive at the piggery at 8. And the milk system will be flashing for acknowledgement to operate the cleaning procedure. So we go ahead and acknowledge the cleaning procedure. We have to clean the tank ourselves, which is absolute. There's nothing to it. It's just to run around with like a brush, and it's cleaned. If it's done every day, we clean the filter every day. Then we acknowledge that, and she cleans that through the system, and then she'll ask you to add the cleaning product and open and close the valve, or open the valve. So therefore she pumps then the cleaning fluid and the water through the system to the bowls and out through the pipe, all the pipes, and cleans. On a Monday, Wednesday and Friday when she's hard cleaning, she'll fill the tank about 2 to 3 times and empty herself out through, which is the manual clean. She'll only maybe do it once because it's not as depth of clean. But it has to be done, and I think that's the main and big importance, is the cleaning procedure of the milk machine, is keeping it clean is the key to it. And then you just acknowledge, she pumps it all out, and then she'll acknowledge, you have to acknowledge then that she's finished her clean, so you close all the valves, and she'll start then filling up to mix milk for the bowls then, and then fresh milk then to put it out then in the bowl then.
I had teething problems at the very start because the milk to water ratio wasn't right, and it wasn't taking in enough milk powder for it. The water would come in. They were drinking it away as normal as I thought they should be, but wasn't gaining any weight. And so you should be testing the system every 4 to 6 weeks. Just it'll test it out, put in a little weighing scales and test, make sure it's taking in over 4.5 kilos of milk powder into every mix. It's about 35 litres or 40 litres of water goes into it, and just making sure that the system is running properly. And I didn't know that at the start. I thought it was all justified for me, but we got that right then, and I've never looked back since, and it actually has worked a dream.
The teething issues that I had with starting the system was the scour. When we started, we were turning on the room once one sow would have pigged, and we put 16 pigs on her, and didn't judge her, or she just put 16 on or whatever, and we turned on the milk, and we noticed that the piglets were going to the bowl and drinking the milk freely and not sucking the sow, therefore not getting bee stings, and they were just one would take scour and then scour the whole litter. So by covering our bowls and only turning it on when 20% was farrowed, that really helped the scour then. That's how we discovered, that's why I started the covering the bowls to day 3 and judging the sow, because the scour was getting out of control at the start, because And once a piglet takes scour, it never shines again. It always has a gut problem.
The only disadvantage I would see with the system is the price of the milk powder. It's getting more expensive the whole time, and it probably the benefits with the price of it, I suppose, is expensive going forward. But it's again me a kilo at weaning weight per pig, so it's probably balancing itself out okay at the moment. But I suppose if pig prices drop back down to a lower level, you'd probably have to look into it.
The disadvantage that I have with the system is when you turn on one room with, there could be 22, 24 crates in it. Not all them sows is pigged. So therefore, I think the disadvantage is that each crate should have a valve that when you want milk to that valve, you turn it on and the milk would be there then fresh, and it's not not stale in the bowl or anything like that. It would be fresh. So that's the only disadvantage.
The best advice I give anyone to setting up the system, the two things is make sure you get a good detergent. Always have hot water on hand because you need it for the tank. Cold water won't do because the milk powder will give a residue inside it. Line the tank because of the kind of a fat inside it, and the lines as well. Always watch the milk powder you're buying because of different qualities of milk powder out there. Some of them, your system will be tested for a certain milk powder. If you get one that'll be a lower grade, it won't take in enough of it for the pigs what they need. So always watch that piece of advice a small bit too.
One of the top advice that I would give someone that is operating the summer system would be is give the milk system its own water supply. We at the start was working with our milk machine, and it was working. The water supply was to the wet feed as well. So in the morning when she was cleaning and during her cleaning regime, the wet feed was also taking the water from her to feed. So therefore, we put our own direct line to the water or the milk machine, and we never had any problems since.
My advice to anyone that's installing a similar system to me is obviously do a background check and ring someone that has a couple of systems already, check it out. Price-wise, obviously, the big thing. Always talk to other pig farmers that has it in with a while, like it's a big thing. Quality of milk powder, as I said already, is a big thing. Easy to use, big time. Once it don't take too much time for everyone here, it only takes me about 10 minutes every day. That's including the washing because it's all automatic. Everything is automatic wash. You just put in the detergent, put in the hot water and leave it as work away as is. Come back and it's finished and you just wash out the tank and leave it work away again. It goes back to normal. That's a big thing in the IC that don't take much time. Price-wise, as I said already, it didn't cost me. I don't think it cost me a whole pile. Like 52 euro per crate. It paid back within. I had it paid back within the 12 months, I think, because of the quality pigs I was weaning.
If you were thinking about installing the same system, I would definitely gather all information and all advice from different people. Do you know what I mean? Weigh up the options, and definitely with the high born alive, I think it's the only road to go is the supplementary milk, because the sows are, and they're producing a large amount, and like you want each crate and each sow pushed and do you know what I mean, rearing a high number, do you know what I mean? So therefore, and same again, the labour, do you know what I mean? Like, you're not wasting crates, you're not you're just that's my advice if you were thinking of installing it.
The cost of the system per crate costed me about 52 euro per crate plus the VAT, and that's including mixing room, tanks, hoppers, milk. That was the hopper for the milk powder, and like an extension for putting in another 100 kilos of milk powder into it. I had to fit it all myself, which isn't a big job because it's like putting in a jigsaw. It's all quickly attached little hoses and everything. The hoses are only I don't know, the 4 or 5 mil hoses, so they're very quick to put together. There's no joints, no nothing. They're all free press running in and out, so you don't want that many joints in because the milk powder will get stuck in it. It's very simple that way to put it together. It's actually, any handyman can do it. It looks complicated at start, but it isn't. The running cost per pig costs me per wean pig, I think, in around 170 per pig. I'm using about 0.8 of a kilo of milk per pig. But I'd say before that, it was costing me a lot more because I was running the milk system up till the day they were nearly weaned. And now I cut it off at 22 days or 21 or 2 days. And the last week before weaning, I put them on a gruel with milk powder and creep mixed together in warm water and fed off them for the last week, just to supplement because I was using too much milk before that. Overall, I'm very happy with the system going forward. It's the management, I'm getting so used to it now, it's very easy to use it. Milk powder, I've probably established which one I've used 3 of them, and I came to the right conclusion which one I'm supposed to stay with. The quality pigs, it makes my life an awful lot easier on the weaners going forward. In the first stage, I used to have an awful lot of work and pull-outs. You'd have to cut them back in that big time. And grading in pigs, I always thought it was just because of my pigs that there were unevenness in the pigs, but it was probably from the pig quality of pigs I was weaning. That was my biggest problem. And I think that the milk system have solved a lot of them problems because I'm weaning a better pig going forward. When you wean anything around 7.5 kilos and you're weaning around 14 per sow, it isn't a bad thing to do.
Okay, thank you very much. I think everyone will agree with me that Colm and Leanne had some really good points there and plenty of tips to be taken from both farms. So thank you very much to Colm and Leanne. At the moment now, we're going to go straight into questions because we have a good few questions that have come in over the session. So we're going to pop them up now and welcome Michael, Pather and Kieran to the stage as well. So 1 second, we'll get the questions there. Okay, first question in. Will the research work that is to be carried out in Moore Park look at the effect of milk supplementation on the lightest piglets in the litter and monitor the benefits, if any, to those pigs? So Pather, I might put that question to you if that's okay.
Okay, Louise, that's actually a great question because it is the lightest pigs, and it's the pigs maybe that are on the poor quality teats that are getting the least amount of milk. They're the ones that you're trying to target with this type of system. And I suppose there is evidence to show from dry feeding work, dry creep feeding, that where you're, when you creep feed, it's the lighter pigs that actually take in, and it's the pigs on those inferior teats. They're the ones that actually take in the greatest quantity of creep feed. We kind of would have expected the same thing with this liquid feeding or this milk replacer feeding. We don't have the data on it yet, but in the work we're doing in Moore Park, we will have identified each pig within a litter. So they're tagged at birth. They're going to be weighed all the way through up to weaning, and they'll be weighed post-weaning and all the way, in fact, right up to slaughter. And we're going to be looking at feeding behavior to see how, which pigs are actually taking in the milk. And we'll put a dye into the feed, and we'll know from that also which pigs have consumed the creep or the liquid feed. Yeah. So we'll have data right up to slaughter, and we'll know, whether it's the light or the heavy pigs that benefit most,
Great. Thank you very much. We'll just go a question 2 now. Did you find the liquid feeding reduce the gap between the largest and smallest piglets in each litter and help produce a more even litter? I suppose it's maybe kind of similar there, or maybe one of you want to take that question there?
I can take that question if you want, Louise.
Yeah, great, Michael.
It generally seems to increase the average weaning weight, and that's really where we want the likes of Moore Park work to show is most the gain coming evenly across the 50% heavier and 50% lighter, or is it the actual 50% heavier are actually gaining a lot more of that weight gain, which isn't necessarily what you want because that's going to be more expensive weight gain. So really, hopefully, we'll know from Patter's work there in the next couple of months as exactly what the breakdown of it is and if the spread of weights there is narrowed or not.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. get the next question now. Sorry, 1 second. Perfect. With a milk system, how much per weaned pig on average would you be spending product, system cost, and management of the system? So I know Colin went through some of it there already. I suppose, would you be in agreement with that, or have you anything else to add on top of it? I don't know who wants to take this question.
I can take the question there if you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
The system, it'll depend on the system, obviously, that you're getting. It'll depend on how much the equipment that you're including in it. It'll depend on the system if you're just putting it into the farrowing house, or are you going to extend it into your first stage there for the first couple of days. So it's a very difficult figure to put to nail down. So you heard Colin there, for example, was saying that he was coming up with 52 euros for each crate board. He was fitting the system himself, and he doesn't have the system in the first stage. So it'll just depend as well on the product that you're feeding through the system as what the system will cost for running costs of the system. So it's very hard to give one single cost on it, but that gives an indication of the cost of it.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
maybe just to add to that, Louise, I suppose we don't have the data on that yet for our system here. It's only just we're only just starting with our work with it. But I suppose by the end of the project, we'll have a lot of data and for various different scenarios, as Michael said.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We'll be looking forward to that. Kieran, I might direct this one to you. You don't mind? What temperature is the milk fed to the piglets at? And how many times a day is there a new milk or a new mix of milk made up? Sorry.
Well, the milk we have here, that's it's designed to be mixed at 55 degrees, so we're trying to get as close as possible to that. The actual temperature when it hits the trough is probably between 30 and 40 degrees. And we rewarm the milk here during the day so that it doesn't settle back to ambient temperature. There's also the milk mix. It's mixed twice a day here. So we find it's good after 10 hours, say. It'll depend again on what type of milk you have, because different milks will go off in different lengths of time. So it's really up to whatever milk you're using for temperature and for number of times you have to mix a day for fresh milk.
Perfect. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm really sorry, but the clock seems to be against us today, so we're going to have to stop the questions there. But if we do have questions, we'll try to get back to you directly on them from the ones that are left over that we didn't get to today. So apologies about that. So just to finish off, I would like to say a sincere thank you to Colin Ryan, Leanne Lynch, and Jimmy Mooney. We appreciate you sharing or letting us understand what happens on your units in terms of milk supplementation. And we also appreciate the time you took to record the video clips beforehand and to share that knowledge with the industry at large. So thank you very much for that. And just in a quick addition to that, I'd like to congratulate Leanne Lynch. Leanne had a baby girl yesterday, so everybody in Teagasc is delighted to hear the good news, and we would wish you both very well. Then in the top of that, I'd just like to thank Michael, Pather and Kieran for all their input into today's session, and John Leamy and Anne Kane in IT and Alison Maloney in PR, and also to Amy Quinn and Orla Kinane with all the support they've provided for Teagasc Virtual Pig Week. In addition to that, just to make you aware that if you go onto your expo stage, you can see the video clips from all the students are available there. So they're short 2-minute clips and they're well worth a watch. So lastly, I would like to just thank you, the audience, for attending today. I hope you found today beneficial, and I hope you'll join us again tomorrow, where Kieran Carl will host a live panel discussion on issues that are facing the pig sector. So thank you very much, and we hope to see you again tomorrow.